Joy. I'm trying to get full screen up. Where's the page? Oh, here we are. Okay. Yes, we are unrehearsed, and in a way we met last night. No, at the opening night. Yes, we've spoken on telephones and what have you, but it's fantastic that Jane was able to come from Mandurah for this presentation. I'd like to thank her for that. So I'm Cecelia Cmielewski, the manager of Symbiotica, and I've been doing this job now since October. So in a way this project has been far more ongoing than my knowledge about it. The University of Western Australia is where Symbiotica is based, and we always like to acknowledge that its campus is based on Noongar land, and that the Noongar people remain the spiritual and cultural custodians of their land and continue to practice their values, languages, beliefs and knowledge. No, I think it's the space. So this is just, I'll just do some very, probably only about half of you really know about Symbiotica, I'm assuming. Is that about right? Hands up. Yeah. Who does? Thanks. Anyway, we're really involved. We're based within the Anatomy and Human Biology School at the University of Western Australia, a unique model in terms of an arts and science laboratory within a physical sciences location. And these are the kinds of things that we're hoping to do. I don't need to read them out for you. And also have a range of partners. So we operate very much internationally, but really there's been, I suppose, over the last maybe 5 years of Symbiotica's life also engaging at a local level as well. And the work with Mandurah Council is a perfect example of that. But these are the range of partners. Again, I don't need to read them out for you, I don't think. We are now moving into the next decade of our work, and I guess we're describing ourselves as leading the creative nexus between the arts, life sciences and society, investigating the challenges of our world. And these topics, if you like, of investigation include ecology, and this example of the work at Lake Clifton is our ecological project. It's been developed with the City of Mandurah, been going for at least 5 years, and we've had at least 8 artists. That's going to result in an exhibition in May 2012.
So I'm here today just to tell you a little bit about our experience of working with Symbiotica and also with the artists from the Adaptation Project. The artists were identified by Symbiotica, and so Oren worked with Marco on that, and we had the great pleasure of hosting them in our community. So I'll be speaking a little later on about all those good things.
So this is somebody you might recognise.
So, sitting at my desk, I've opened up an article on what Symbiotica were doing many years ago, about 2007, and I was just gobsmacked. I can't think of a better terminology with what they were doing. And I tremulously rang up, found the phone number for Symbiotica and rang up, and Oren answered the phone, and I said, "Oren, would you like to come down and play in Mandurah?" And to my great surprise and horror, he said yes, because I didn't know what was going to evolve from that. So I just wanted to say, for folk who perhaps aren't in the hub of arts practice in a capital city, in a major city, if you're out in the regions, just pick the phone up and make that first phone call, and some great things can happen. Lake Clifton in the Mandurah area, is in the city of Mandurah, which is the Shire of Mandurah, if you like. It's one of the world's best kept secrets. It's in our backyard. We tend to take it for granted. It's just a lake where people aren't allowed to fish, so when they do fish, they do it at night time when nobody's watching. That's the general view of Lake Clifton. But to try and raise awareness amongst the people I have conversations with, perhaps who don't understand its values, I talk about it as Australia's Stonehenge. It is hugely significant, and through Symbiotica and Oren's work, and the work of the artists who've been down here, it gradually opened up my eyes just about its huge significance. So just be aware that in Western Australia we have Australia's equivalent of Stonehenge, and it is Lake Clifton. So in our partnership with Symbiotica, the things that a local government is able to bring is that there's a resource base there. There's offices, there's meeting rooms, there's budgets, and there's local knowledge. So we were able to assist with developing the networks and contacts for Symbiotica and the artists that came down. We were able to give them contacts into local and specialist knowledge, access to meeting rooms, which sounds like a very domestic thing, but when you're moving into an area and you want a meeting room or to hold a seminar, it's useful to have a local council with meeting rooms you can tap into. And we were able to include the Adaptation Project into our annual Arts Festival stretch, which we're delighted with. Something else we were able to do with Symbiotica, because the artists were not locally based, perhaps, and when these artists visited the community, the buzz went round, but perhaps the connections needed a little bit more of a help, and also to raise the profile of the values of Lake Clifton, and to work with the people in that part of the city of Mandurah. Lake Clifton is a semi-rural area. Most of Mandurah is an urban area. We organised the Lake Clifton Festival. I've talked about the very special attributes of Lake Clifton. I think Cecelia is going to tell you a little bit more about them. But there is a thrombolite reef there which is ancient, and it's thought to have produced the first oxygen on this earth. So that is very, very significant. It's a Ramsar-listed site, and the thrombolite reef has now thankfully been listed, or sadly, but thankfully been listed as a critically endangered site. So if you think about some of the animal species around the world that are listed as critically endangered, it gives you some indication of the significance of this site and why it's very sad that they are now critically endangered. At the festival, it was a fantastic festival, very laid back, very cool. We had bands, we had stalls and marquees at the festival site so people could make contact with organisations such as the local wildlife rescue group. They were very critical in the recent, or not so recent, Lake Clifton fires. They were there to help with the rescue of the animals. So it's good to put more people in contact with organisations like that because they're volunteer-based. We had some 20 stalls there. We had a Symbiotica artist in residence, Anna Maria Weldon, who's with us today, Reed. And the Lake Clifton also is a very significant Noongar site. It has female women's business associated with it, which I don't know very much about. But we have a great historian in our community, George Wally, and George was the MC for that festival. So all in all, it's a great day out, brought the community together. Symbiotica were in a marquee, they were able to connect with the community. Symbiotica, what they provided in oodles. They raised the profile of Lake Clifton's environmental and heritage values through bringing students, academics and researchers to our community to take them to Lake Clifton. They network with our local eco groups and wildlife rescue groups. It gave us the opportunity to work with some outstanding artists, which we would never normally have had contact with. It gave us exposure to this fabulous area called bioart, which is just mind-blowing. Something, again, which perhaps regional communities don't get the opportunity to get an understanding of. And it's given us the opportunity to show a really great show at our annual Arts Festival coming up in May 2012.
So this is the Yalgarup National Park, which I'm just giving you a bit of an indication of where Lake Clifton is. You can see Mandurah at the top of the map there, and Lake Clifton, which is where the thrombolites are from. Now, Lake Clifton's young. It's only 6,000 years old. So the indigenous culture in the area is actually much older. You know, some place it at least 45,000 years, and perhaps much more. And again, Lake Clifton's thrombolites are modern in the context of that civilization. The type of bacteria are cyanobacteria, and they're also modern and have adapted over time and are actually different to the relic thrombolite bacteria that are found elsewhere in the world. So this is a unique site in that respect. As Jane said, you know, a lot of scientists think that this is the origins of oxygen in the atmosphere.
Can you imagine that? That is absolutely fundamental. Those funny little rocks in Lake Clifton produce the first oxygen on this earth. So that's why I say it is Australia's Stonehenge. It's quite amazing.
I don't know if people really want to know about the science, but basically the cyanobacteria are able to generate and live and survive in extremely kind of poor conditions. So as they generate more oxygen and transfer that oxygen into the atmosphere, conditions for life become more sustainable. And so they produce the conditions for life. And they're just down the road. There are a number of environmental issues that are being faced by the lake, including ecotourism issues around for the hooded plover and laying their eggs directly on the land. So that kind of issue of when you draw attention to a place, you also draw attention to increasing ecotourism issues that need to be addressed. This slide shows predictions of climate change.
It's sorry, so it is sea level rises.
Sea level.
The one on the left is if the sea around the world rises a metre,
yeah.
And the one on the right is the extreme. I think if it rises 5 metres.
5 metres, yeah.
And it shows the inundation in Mandurah, and that similar inundation would happen in Rockingham and presumably up the coast.
And this is CSIRO funded modelling by local. It's a national project. I can give you the website. These are actually slides that have been previously edited, but the system would only run the old version. I had more information for you on it. Rise in salinity is an issue. The thrombolites at Lake Clifton prefer brackish water, and so their ability to function and grow is dependent on, in their case, on brackish water. So an increase in salinity is an issue for them. And also an increase in the growth of algal mats, which of course are caused by runoff from the local farms in the area. I think one of the... Oh, okay. This is more typical of what Mandurah looks like.
This is not the Stonehenge of Australia we're talking about here.
This is...
yes.
But I guess the urban sprawl is incredible for people who've been there. It's significant stretches of this kind of habitat. And increasingly so. So the development pressures, I think this was a map probably taken about 3 to 4 years ago, but clearly the development is encroaching right up.
It's a planning issue. If any of you who are in local government know that when an area is zoned, you can't undo zoning. It's particularly hard, and if people have the opportunity to appeal to the state planning minister. So that's the zoning that exists around Lake Clifton at the moment, and it's on the shores of the lake. It's pretty much 5-acre hoppy farms, and then there's more density as you get towards the estuary on the right-hand side of that picture.
I'm just going to talk about some of the artists that have been involved. So this is Galliano Fadden, who is a local artist, has lived in the region for a long time. He has a property right by the lake and is quite a well-known abstract expressionist. So he's been fairly active in both painting but also writing about these issues. And I just wanted to quote from one of his recent exhibitions where he's saying that the workings of nature through its endless mutations and adaptations to changing circumstances are a creative endeavour which has inspired humanity on our journey through history. The realisation that we humans can unleash so much destructive power on a global scale implies that we may also have the means to make some necessary corrections. Through this we could reconnect our creativity to the creative power of nature. So he's strident in a sense of people taking action, and this is one way that he does it as well as through his writing. And
Galliano's wife is Nancy, who is an absolute delight, and she wrote a very important letter or essay, if you like, on Lake Clifton, which was submitted to the Federal Minister for the Environment, which was one of the documents that helped get the strombolites listed as critically endangered. So I guess Galiano is a prime example of where an artist gets involved in issues and some good things can happen.
Catherine Hyam, who was here yesterday, I don't know if she's here today, I don't think she's, has a multidisciplinary approach to her work. So she's interested in the connection between human behaviour and ecology. She lectures for visual arts at C.Y. O'Connor Institute in Narrogin and lives on her husband's family farm there. So she's really producing work that looks at bioindicators, and in this case has been able to go down to the microscopic level for the first time in her work. So she's been over a 2-year period documenting changes in water quality in the 14 Mile Brook and observing bioindicators such as algal blooms, arthropods, and the conditions that they find themselves in. Do you want to talk about Marion?
Yes. Through the Adaptation Project, we were delighted to host Marion Laval-Jeantet and Benoit Mangin from Art Oriente, objet. Symbiotica partnered with IASKA to bring these artists to Mandurah. They conducted their own arts practice when they were in Mandurah, but more than that, which was immensely significant for us, they are arts activists. If you get the chance to look at their website, you look at the amazing work that they've done around the world to raise issues politically, that they really have extended their arts practice and taken huge risks. They're an amazing couple. So have these, they're very modest, they're very self-reliant. They just lobbed into our community and off they went like clockwork toys. They're quite incredible. They hardly needed any support from me. I get the occasional phone call. So because of their concern about Lake Clifton and their recognition of its fragility, and that they saw it as an example to be viewed from a worldwide perspective as to how communities were changing through climate change, they have their mayor, the mayor of Montreuil, is a representative of the Green Party, and their mayor was very impressed with the environmental planning that the city of Mandurah had undertaken. So their mayor asked for a Skype hookup with our mayor, which was significant for a local government, particularly when you're in Mandurah. You think Paris is a very long way away, and nobody would have any interest in our wee town. They held an exhibition in Montreuil, which is an inner suburb of Paris, and it was a real buzz to, through the Skype hookup, to see images of Lake Clifton in their gallery in Paris. They're great role models for bioart and for political activism through the arts, and they gave us new perspectives on the familiar. And there's a very challenging photograph that will come up, which as part of this presentation. And I've, as I said, that photograph. Marion Benoit and Marion were going down the Old Coast Road, which is a very dangerous road in Mandurah, lots of car accidents there, very fast road, and they were going down to visit Galiano and Nancy, and the car in front of them hit a kangaroo, and they subsequently came across another 2 roadkills that night. They were horrified, they leapt out, and sorry, I didn't choke you. That road died in Marion's.
Got some water?
No, sorry. Hormonal, I get very emotional. But Marion, as I said, new perspectives. To us, it's just roadkill. Cripes, we've hit a kangaroo. Marion had the humanity to see what was happening. So part of that project was that they took the carcasses, buried them at Galiano's property on Lake Clifton, allowed the meat to come off the bones, and then they cleaned the bones. In fact, cleaning the bones involved boiling them on the barbecue in my house in a bucket of water to get the sinews out, and they sent the bones off to be carved in Indonesia. So these guys brought new perspectives to something that was familiar.
And I think what their practice does have an ecological concern, and they also have quite a strong link to craft work, or in the way they realise their projects, and almost akin to reuse, tinkering, and I think that the bone carving is an example. So I have some photographs from them. The reason AO aren't here, well, one of the reasons is that they had a family health crisis, and at the time when this installation was supposed to be happening, so completely unexpected. And but there's maintained contact, and Mandurah are very keen to have them included in the exhibition, so there will be some work at a later stage for people to look at. They've produced a television installation, so they're very kind of cross-media. Seems to be that European television, also from what Jakob was saying, is that the public television access is far more, far greater in Europe than in Australia, and it would be, I think, an interesting outcome to see what we can get on TV for some of these projects, actually. So there's been realisations in Europe for this project, and there will be something in Australia later on. Carmel Wallace is another one of the artists, and she's also producing a very close-up, microscopic, using scientific techniques to look at the content of the lake. Quite beautiful. And for her, this was an extension of her her work as well. You know, looking at these seemingly resilient living fossils, but asking really how adaptable they're going to be for future encroachments into their environment. Anna Maria Weldon, who's here today, is an award-winning essayist, and she began writing for publication in 1978, so it's extremely accomplished. And I think has been one of the artists that's also really well associated now with this project. So you want us to finish?
I just wanted to say, I just want to acknowledge Anna Maria Weldon, if that's all right. Anna's in the audience here today. She's been an incredible artist in our community. So she came to the city of Mandurah through the IASKA project. But Anna is an incredible communicator. She's run workshops in our community. She worked with women who have experienced domestic violence, got them to open up and tell their stories. Their stories were then turned into artwork for an exhibition at our arts festival. Very compelling, gut-wrenching exhibition, and it's the first time those women have felt comfortable working. So Anna's skill as a writer and as a communicator gave the women those tools to feel comfortable telling their stories. So.
And Purdy Phillips is also here, so a walking tour of the lake will be possibly included in the exhibition. I'm sorry I have to race through this. Vion Walker also trying to grow the slowest sculpture in the world. And Oren Katz, his autotroph, which is a tongue-in-cheek self-cleaning system for the lake, which will also be, it's been exhibited in Beijing, but will also be here in Mandurah. We've already talked about what's next. And I guess the thing that I'd just like to finish on is that, you know, we're not going to solve the world. All we can do is point to some possibilities and our attempts to keep on asking questions. Thanks very much.
Thank you.